Recently, I've come under a little fire. For what? My beliefs. In my opinion. But not here on YouTube, but on Facebook. What was my opinion? What am I getting put under fire for? Anyone who watched the most recent episode of the PBS show Arthur, based on the kids' books written by Mark P. Brown, would know that the most recent episode showed Arthur's teacher, Mr. Nigel Ratburn, getting a gay wedding. Now, I haven't watched an episode of Arthur in almost 20 years. In practically 20 years. Oh, sure, I'd pass by some of the reruns time to time during puberty, but I just skipped them. Skipped the show altogether. My heyday for PBS was the early to late 90s. During the eras of shows like the Carmen Sandiego game shows and Wishbone, when there was programming geared more towards preteen to early teenager crowds. And for those wondering, I'm 31. I was born in '87, so yeah. I got educated on geography and history at a relatively early age, too young to be on either of the game shows. Well, too young to be on World, and by the time I was old enough to be on Time, it was a bit too late to even try and register for the show. Especially when the latter series only lasted 2 seasons. But back to the matter at hand. What's my problem with it? I mean, now you could say, but Mets. TV shows and movies have been pushing gay marriage rights for quite some time. True. I mean, that's true. But here's my problem with it being pushed in Arthur. My beef with it is, this is a kids show, and pushing this on the kids, on a demographic of children, roughly, from my ballpark estimates, 4 to 11, of ages 4 to 11, reeks of indoctrination by the left. Which is why my nephews don't even watch a lot of TV shows nowadays. And what they do watch is mostly movies, sitcoms, retro sitcoms. And the fact that Arthur and his friends shrug off Ratburn's homosexuality like it's normal just rubs me the wrong way. We're trying to push this onto our children, onto the next generation as a norm. I'm sorry, but this is crossing a line that should not be crossed. More so in this show because I get it. It's an episodic TV show that doesn't have an overarching plot with it, whose stories are not all that well interconnected. The only time I remember many of the stories being truly interconnected was when Buster spent a few months with his father. During that stretch when Buster was sent to spend some time with his dad. It was how we got the spin-off show in the early 2000s, Postcards from Buster. I only watched a couple episodes of that, for those wondering. and only a couple. But getting back to my point. I can't believe I'm going to be blasting the public broadcasting system networks. Let's see. Nope. Too far ahead. Here it is. Matthew 10:42, the words of Christ. And if you give even a cup of cold water to at least one of my followers, even especially the children, you will surely be rewarded. But in my opinion, PBS, they're not giving these kids a cold cup of water, no. They're giving them poison. So by spreading this by forcing this drivel upon by having this crap on a kids show. Guys promote diversity, my ass. I'm all good and fine with diversity. That's all fine and dandy, but not when you're trying to push homosexuality as diversity on little kids. If you wait till they hit puberty or so, then yeah, that'd be fine, but not on a kids program. But you don't do it to tots and elementary school students. But this is the poison that spreads when we live in a politically correct culture. Everyone has to be careful. We're all walking along eggshells nowadays. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I'd rather get cut by those eggs, crush those eggshells under my feet. Well, right here. Luke 10:19. Look, I have given you authority over all the power of the enemy, and you can walk among snakes and scorpions and crush them. Nothing will injure you. Words of Jesus in Luke 10:19. And that's what I'm doing here. What I'm going to do here. Step over. I've been doing most of the past couple of years. Stepping on the snakes and scorpions of political correctness and crushing them under my foot. Because I don't care for because I don't care for being PC. Because it's become because political correct culture, it's new neo-conformity culture. It's new era conformity. PBS, you just shot when you did with that episode of Arthur. You're more or less shooting yourself in the foot with more traditionalist families. If you wanted to play up the marriage as a more serious issue instead of something that's casual, fine. But you didn't. But there was no build to it, little to no, and no execution behind it. I mean, I know this, from what I understand, there were serious episodes about it. I mean commentaries in the show. Like the whole Buster going away. That kind of covered divorce. to an extent. The 9/11 episode of Zoom, and the 9/11 episode. I would say almost every PBS show did during 9/11/01. 1. Mrs. McGrady contracting cancer was taken more seriously. Seriously than this. And that episode I found through a list of the 10 darkest times kids shows talked about serious topics list by some guy named Jorge and even Phantom Strider. They collaborated with the Phantom Strider. They did in collaboration with Phantom Strider. PBS, what you pulled disgusted me. But then again, let's face it, ever since the turn of the millennium, you guys have been going downhill. Even with the shows you did have for a short time. Time that you chucked after they ran their course, like Liberty's Kids, for example. Which was basically looking at the war through the lens of gray instead of the traditional pragmatic black and white. That was done well. But then you get shows like George Shrinks, Caillou, Clifford the Big Red Dog, Dragon Tales. Almost all of those geared more towards preschoolers. And they suck. Bottom line, PBS, you've been warned. Pull a stunt like this again, and there'll be petitions to get you all knocked off the air. And to get you shut down. I can almost sense it. Mets2128 signing out. Goodbye. Good night. Bang. Like, comment, and subscribe.